Listen, boys, I don't know how gaming got here, but I absolutely hate what gaming currently is. It used to be so simple, right? You have an idea and you just build around it. You add a couple of things the fans asked for. You add mechanics and things that people want, and you just try and deliver something that gamers would enjoy. It's that simple. Well, turns out wrong. It's not that simple, especially in the modern day. For some reason, every developer is doing the exact opposite, especially the AAA. And it's dying because of it. And while it is kind of funny, I don't want that, honestly. I want good games. I want a lot of them. I would rather see Ubisoft actually thrive because Assassin's Creed is not a shit show. But it is. And it's not stopping. And why? Because this easy principle of game development is now replaced with this absolutely completely insane off the wall concept of if gamers want this, you give them the opposite. Gamers are evil and your enemy. Anything that they like is bad. And we need to force them to like the things that they don't. How did it get to this point? How is this possible?
It's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about how the internet changed game design. This is from a question from Padoni Rosso. Hope I'm pronouncing your name right. How did your thought process in designing and making games change, or maybe what adaptations did you see in general in making games by the industry around you with the advent of social media and video game streamers? To what extent and how do developers and or publishers keep in mind how streamable are their current projects in development? I'm sure that video game streaming cannot be ignored as a sort of mostly free commercial and promotion circuit for a modern day game. So how do you guys manage this change from what making and selling games was only 10 to 20 years ago? 10 to 20 years, I'm going to go back 45. By the way, when I talk about how it changed the design, it's not just the design of the games. I want to talk about how they were portrayed to the public and also how the public received them. So because of that, I'm not going to talk about.
So, by the way, this is Tim Kane, one of the creators of the original Fallout franchise, and I do like Tim Kane for a couple of things. I think he's a good leader. I think he has a lot of good ideas behind him. But at the same time, I don't like a lot of things about him because Tim Kane is also currently the guy who literally bent the knee because he desperately wants to work on another Fallout game currently, and said, "Oh yeah, Todd Howard, what great ideas! Oh my lord, all the things that people liked and you ruined with the Fallout TV show, all of that was great. Yeah. Ghouls needing some magical serum to not go feral? Of course, that's a marvelous idea." Waltech being evil capitalists, even though the story of the game was never about that? Yes, that actually is so on point. I love it. He did that. He bent the knee, and he bent it hard. So, this video is gonna be either a miss, complete miss, or it's gonna be on point. We're gonna see which one is it.
Multiplayer games, because there was a big switch from LAN to client server for a lot of reasons that are beyond the scope of what I want to talk about here. But if you want to talk about how design docs changed over that same 45-year time period, I have a video that I'll link below called Evolution of Video Game Design Docs. And if you want to know how I felt technology changed relevant to video games, I have a whole technology evolution video. I'll link that below too. So, this is a big question that was asked because there's been a lot of changes of the internet. What we called it. It was the Usenet, ARPANET, Internet, Web. It's just online. It's just the net. And I want to start back in when I started, which is the early 80s. So I'm going to talk about all of the 80s here and part of the early 90s.
Okay.
Back then, you pretty much made what you wanted. I've called it the Wild West. There's a video I made very recently called Carefree to Careful. I'll link it below, where I talk about that. But there wasn't really a net, so everything was done in print. There were guides and even whole walkthroughs printed in magazines and other printed media. But most people who played games just figured it out. I would say the majority of people who played games didn't go get walkthroughs or reviews. They saw a game.
Yep. That was the time when you just played and it's either you got it or you didn't.
They bought it. They took it home. They may read the manual while it installed, and then they played it. What was cool about back then was categories of games were really loose, if they were used at all. There were a few terms like role-playing games, sim, 4X, although they didn't even really call it 4X. I might have just called it like exploration. Most games weren't categorized. You figured out what kind of game it was by looking at the back of the box and looking at the screenshots. That was a long time. That was probably a decade.
Yeah, I still remember doing that. You go to the store, your mom takes you, and you and the boys are looking at the back of different games, and you're like, man, which one are I'm getting? Which one are you getting? You get that one, I get this one. Good times, good times.
A decade and a half where that's how games were sold, and that's how games, they were sold physically, and people found out about them by word of mouth or looking at the game store. Very rarely printed media. All of that started changing in the late 90s and the 2000s. The internet became insanely popular. It came from being something that I used academically to suddenly all my friends were talking about it. All my friends were using it, and they were very excited about it. And they were like, did you know about email? Yeah, I've been using email for a decade. But now everybody has email, and everyone's getting email addresses. The internet got so popular that people could easily find a guide to any game they wanted to play online. And game categories started tightening up. There was adventure games were separated from role-playing games. What this affected, what I did is I was starting to become more. It was more possible for me to have a say in what I wanted to make. I wasn't making games because other people said, "Here's what we're making this year," but people were like, "Hey, what do you want to make?" And I put together some engines. So I started making my games more complex, which subsequently made walkthroughs harder to define. I mean, what kind of character did you make? What choices did you make as you were playing? These all affected the walkthroughs. I remember when somebody asked me what I imagined the walkthrough for Fallout was going to be like, and I'm like, it can be really different. You don't have to go to these places in any particular order, and depending on what kind of character.
Oh yeah, remember when guides were called walkthroughs? That was also a thing.
Character you're making, some of them are easier, some of them are harder, and what you do in those locations will be different. So that was fun to me. Then starting, I'm going to say YouTube, which was February 2005. At that point, videos became very easy for people to share. Playthroughs were really easy to make and share and easy to find, which meant people could just watch a game being played and decide if that's a game they wanted to buy. And if they were ever stuck, they could just look up a playthrough. Sometimes a playthrough of just that one spot they were stuck in. This trivialized puzzles because you could just type, Fallout Master How to Kill, and it would just lay it out. There'd be a video. Here's what you do. Are you good at combat? Do this. Do you have this particular armor or weapons? Do this. Or do you have speech? Do this. Do you have stealth? Do this. Nobody had to figure it out. They could just look it up. So instead,
Yeah, I'm someone who never looks that stuff up, but there are a lot of people, obviously, who look this stuff up because they want to see. And the other category of people who are like, oh, I wonder how this guy just did it after you have done it yourself.
Started focusing my games on what your character could possibly do. And then puzzles relied more on finding the puzzle pieces as doing them in the right order. So, like, the Master was a good example of it. It survives to this day because even if you read what you have to do, you still have to go do all those things. You just don't go in and go, speech 100, Master. So what I liked is it my game started going from finding items and using them to exploring all these places, learning about things, and then you could use them. Especially not just in combat, but in dialogue. Then the 2010s rolled around, and now those walkthroughs and videos online were starting to get replaced with influencers. I don't recall hearing the word influencer before the 2010s. What was interesting about these individuals is more
Were influencers a thing back then? There were people who were like YouTube celebrities. I think we called them just YouTube celebrities, basically, because YouTube was not that big of a place where, currently the biggest people on YouTube are obviously the most well-known people on the planet also. I mean, YouTube is a direct correlation with how popular a person is globally. And actually, it's probably the best accurate judge of it. For example, when Brie Larson's supposed to be a big deal on YouTube, she's not because no one cares, and she's my wife. So don't you speak anything bad unless you want to get Will Smithed, okay? It is what it is. Because at that time, YouTubers, they could have been famous on YouTube, but that didn't mean that they were famous in real life. Completely different game.
More than showing how to play games, they were actually recommending whether you should buy them or not. Differently than journalists. Journalists would frequently say, look at the game, look at all these, look at the features, and it supports this, and it's very similar to this game, and blah, blah, blah. And then they'd finally give it like, we're going to give it an 8 out of 10 because it was a little buggy, but we liked it.
That doesn't sound like an IGN review at all.
Influencers did something different. They were like, here's a game. I love it. It's for you. And let me show, and then they show high points of it. Game print magazines, by the way.
That's not even true, Timmy. Okay, people have done this for a while, but they were still critical. They were the influencers back then, if we can call them influencers because it's cringe. They weren't like that. They weren't like, oh, this is a game, buy it. Hee hee ha ha. I have no opinions. No. People had opinions. They said what's good about it, what's bad about it. Maybe they concentrate on more good. Maybe they concentrate on more bad. But typically people were not like, oh, this is good, buy it now. Sometimes, but I mean, that wasn't the general thing that happened.
The 2010s are already dying. And I think this killed them because why wait for a review when someone you already followed could just tell you about the game and whether or not you should buy it?
Oh.
Publishers responded to this by sending copies of the game to influencers and online channels just as much as they...
Wait. No, they didn't. This is not how that happened, okay? No gaming YouTube review channel got shit early back in the 2010s. Absolutely not. The IGNs and the PC gamers and all of the garbage bonanza fires did not allow that, okay? Becky at IGN did not say to, old-time Bethesda and said, hey, do you want to also send this review to a person on YouTube to review? No. Becky was like, if you send this to anyone on YouTube, I will de-scalp you. Okay, Becky's kind of wild, you understand. You don't F around with Becky, okay? She's gonna get you, okay? She got that crazy eye. It is what it is. No, that's why no one fucks with Becky. And that's what they did. Becky literally talked to the old time Bethesda and they got scared. She knew you were after her. She was social media before social media, okay? She knew what's up. She knew where your kids went to school. Becky said no, then the answer was no, okay? The YouTuber's not getting shit. And nowadays, in the waning power of Becky and IGN, because Becky made IGN what IGN is. She was the biggest part of making IGN successful in the first place, okay? That woman got it in her, okay? Even now, still, games companies, especially the AAA ones, are gonna choose IGNs over gamers and whatnot. Because IGN kind of is gonna give them always the big score. Remember, Dragon Age Veilguard returned to form. And every single one of these outlets said return to form. While the players said, wow, this is slop. Wow, I feel bad. I wasted my time. I want a refund of my time. Please turn back time now. Thank you.
Did to game journalists. And that kind of changed things because the journalists were at least, I think, sometimes trying to be objective. I don't think there's any objectivity. I mean, influencers themselves go, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, or I'm here for the hardcore. So many designers like myself, we frequently thought, well, how is a certain event in the game going to look like when someone's playing it live or recording themselves playing it to put up as a stream We thought about cinematics, we thought about end bosses, we thought about unusual weapons you could get. And because of that, we wanted it to look really good in video. And that was one reason, like, particle effects became a big thing, because you just didn't want it to go boom. You wanted a big explosion and wanted it to be pretty. And
that seems a little bit nonsensical, because that's something you would want anyway. If the person playing it is happy, the person watching it is also probably gonna be happy with it.
Colorful, and all these things, especially in a clip, because people will see that on some channel where someone's talking about the game and they see that clip and now they really want to play the game. So now you're thinking about your game the way we used to think about interviews. When you went into an interview, you're like, okay, I got to have some sound bites ready so that, you know, when I get quoted, I want to make sure the sound bite's quoted. Now it's like, what part of our game would make good clips for influencers to show? And now we're in the 2020s, and many gamers don't even look to influencers for reviews. They look to influencers to be told how to think about the games. So people...
Oh, there we go. This is where it all breaks apart. This is a shit opinion. Complete. And this is shit. I'm sorry, Tim. You lost. You lost! Okay? I wish I had enough power to tell you, hey, like the video right now. It takes less than a second. Some of you will, because you're nice people. And you know it helps out a lot, and I appreciate it. But most people are not going to be influenced by anything they see see a dude on YouTube say. That's just the reality. If I now go and tell you Fallout New Vegas, the best game in the universe, is bad, you're going to go in the comments and call me an idiot. You're not going to magically just, oh, Fallout New Vegas is actually bad. My favorite jobber streamer just said that. It doesn't happen like that. Yeah, we can sway opinions if a person deems that their opinion is measurably equal-ish to what I say, and that what I value overlaps with what they value. Sure, I have sway, but I can't tell someone this is bad, don't fucking buy it, and they're like, done, chief. Gonna listen to you, boss. I wish it was like that. I wish, you know? Sell your house, donate all that money to me. I need it more, you know? It is what it is. But that doesn't happen, sadly.
Don't form opinions from the online video. They're handed an opinion from the online channel they're watching. What this means is I've seen reviews go from, this game has less combat and more puzzles and dialogues for you to interact with than this other game, to, this game is stupid and slow paced and made for casuals. I think you should skip it. That's a huge difference in how games are presented. But more people are going for that latter.
True. No, more people are not going for the latter, not necessarily. More people are going for that opinion if the genre of game has that opinion. Okay? If we're talking about, I don't know, a channel that reviews Dark Souls, for example, or Elden Ring. Jesus Christ, here we go again, aren't we? If we look into that, yeah, if they say that it's slow-paced and too easy, then that's a massive problem for the people who like the genre, because they are specifically looking for their channel for Elden Ring type of games, you know? Not as easy as Mario, but a little bit less hard than, you know, actual hard games. Because Elden Ring is not hard. Give it the rest, buddy. You're never winning this argument. Go play Lost Ark and fucking rage quit on the first boss, because the first boss has 10 mechanics and you're used to like 2. Hey, you know, it is what it is, boys. Who said, who? Becky, come here. You need to work a little bit, okay?
They're like, I don't have time. There's too many games. Just tell me whether I should buy it. Tell me if it's for me. So they find someone they just like, and then that person's opinion becomes their opinion. This has a positive side. It's easy to find someone who sides with your preferences and therefore is a good guide for you finding new games. And I've talked about that. That's how I look for game reviewers myself. I look at their reviews for games I already know. If they like the ones I liked and didn't like the ones I didn't like, then I will trust them going forward on reviews of games that I haven't played yet. But the negative to this is more and more people seem to be abdicating their own judgment to that of people they see online. It's like, I don't want to think about it. You tell me what I should think about it. And I see that sometimes on this channel when I get multiple nearly identical comments from people, and I realize they're just quoting an online influencer. Sometimes it's a meme, but more often it's, oh, this influencer person said this thing about this, and now they're just quoting without any attribution in a comment. Sometimes even when it doesn't apply, which just makes me go, are they understanding why the person said that? But other reactions I see happening in the industry because of this trend is designers have become really obsessed with labeling their game. It's not enough to say I have an RPG. Is it an action RPG? Does it have an open world? Is this going to be controversial if I...
Yeah. I mean, if I do think it's mean to label games with, like, RPG and whatnot. Most of those things don't mean anything, but there are some important ones for, like, is this a story-driven game? Is it an action-driven game? Is it open world? Is it linear? There are some big ones that still matter.
Talk about this topic, they really want to know what the labels are on their games. And so do you guys. You guys ask these questions. Does it have this content? Is it hub and spoke version of a game? As if I can't think of a game that I hated because it was open world versus hub and spoke. I love both of them, and a well-made game can be done in both of them. But this is what a lot of designers think about now when they're putting a game together. They also wonder how influencers will react. If there's an influencer who really likes a lot of the previous games made by you or made at the company you made, you may be putting in a feature and think, is he gonna like this? Is she gonna comment about this nicely? It's probably not a healthy way of designing a game, but
that's a stupid way of designing a game. And again, I don't think most modern game developers care about it. There's a reason they call us the chuds, okay? It is what it is at the end of the day, boys. Anyway, that was Tim Kane, 10 out of 10. Have a nice day. Bye.